It was a fierce and fiery debate at question period earlier today. The governing NDP trading jabs with the opposition PCs at the Manitoba Legislative Building. At the heart of it, what happened after the MLA for Kirkfield Park finished reading a statement about the International Transgender Day of Remembrance. Logan Oxenham also spoke about Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and her government's use of the notwithstanding clause. At the end of that speech, video shows the NDP caucus stand and clap. Many of the opposition MLAs remain seated. Today, Premier Wab Kinew took exception to that moment.
I'll table the photo of him not standing, not applauding for a statement about the Transgender Day of Remembrance. What do they have about trans people? In the last election, he was the poster boy for the anti-trans ads that the PCs ran. I'll table the vote in which their caucus was split on the question of whether trans people have rights. And then again yesterday on the Transgender Day of Remembrance, he refuses to stand, he refuses to clap, and of course, yes, he refuses to make eye contact because he knows that his behavior is shameful.
Now, to be clear, Obby Khan is seen on video clapping. He remains sitting while also looking at some of his colleagues. Obby Khan, the leader of the Manitoba Progressive Conservative Party, joins us in studio now. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me, Faith.
Do you accept that premise that your decision not to stand after the MLA statement is shameful?
No, not at all. The Premier is once again giving half-truths. I mean, you said yourself that I am seen clapping for it. I'm not standing for it. The Premier has a history and a record of putting misinformation out there and letting Manitobans believe one thing over the other. The fact of the matter is that this statement by the member was a very political statement in nature. So private member statements are usually done to recognize people in your community, in your riding, your constituents. They are days of remembrance as well. Sometimes Memorial Days, for example, today was Memorial Day for Haldimor, the massacre that happened there. A moment of silence was asked for. On Memorial Days, Remembrance Days, it's a moment of silence. All members stand up. We recognize that. That wasn't asked for yesterday. On days where there's a member statement and there's people in attendance, the member asks to recognize the people in the crowd. That was not asked for yesterday. So the statement itself was very political in nature. If it was a statement on Transgender Remembrance Day, of course I would have stood. As the leader of the PC party, I would have, but it was not. It is political games being played by the Premier and then echoing that with misinformation as you just played.
The member said, take a stand and condemn the abuse of the notwithstanding clause that strip away charter rights, among other things.
Yeah.
What was it about what the member said that you see as politicized and something that you couldn't stand for?
Yeah, great. So the notwithstanding clause, we know it's a big topic in Canada all the way through. And this was specifically about Alberta and the Premier using the notwithstanding clause there. I'm not going to comment on what other provinces are doing. I'm going to comment on what's happening here in Manitoba. We as a PC party, as the leader, I said, we have never used the notwithstanding clause in Manitoba. Either party has never used it. We have never intended to use it. We have no plan on using it. It's not even on our radar. The Premier had brought forward legislation, so this is political games. He has brought forward Bill 50 to say he would never use the notwithstanding clause. We have said, as a leader, it would be irresponsible for you to say you would never, ever use that. And an example would be in federally. So I'm sure you're probably well aware that the Supreme Court ruled that the minimum sentence of 1 year is no longer the case for people who are sexually exploiting, abusing pornography, child pornography. So the Supreme Court overruled and said, nope, no more 1 year sentence. Every premier in Canada has come out and said, calling on the federal government to use the notwithstanding clause, saying,
including the Manitoba Premier.
No, he has not. He has not. The Premier has not. He has said, he would, in a quote, paraphrasing, to the fact that street justice, that he wants to release the prisoners in general pop, that he wants to bury them under the prison. But he will not say the federal government should use the notwithstanding. We have said in that situation, it would be irresponsible to say you're never going to ask to use the notwithstanding clause. So we've called on him to do that. He says he won't use the notwithstanding here, but maybe the feds could use it or should use it, but he won't say it. And instead, he wants to resort to murdering and burying prisoners under the jail is what he said. And we think that's political games. That's wrong. Just say what you mean.
Take me back to that moment. What was it about what the member said that made you not want to stand?
Well, I mean, there were a couple of things. So one was the use of the notwithstanding clause in that statement. Again, if it was a statement solely on the Transgender Day of Remembrance, we would have stood. I would have stood. I can speak for myself. As the leader of the party, of course I would have stood. But again, those follow a certain protocol. Usually, 99% of the time, there's a ask for a moment of silence to remember those that have been affected by this, right? And there is, sadly, and I recognize, and this needs to stop, that there is a disproportionate violence, hate, crime, attacks on transgender, and that's wrong. It needs to stop. So if this was a day to recognize that and all the harms that have come, of course we would have stood. But it wasn't. So one, there was no ask for a moment of silence. One, there was no ask for recognition of the people of the crowd. Three, there was no ask to stand, because some members would say, and now I ask all the members in the assembly to stand and recognize this day. None of that was there. So we weren't aware of that was A, happening, B, we weren't aware anyone was in the crowd, and C, in political nature of the statement saying that they condemn the use of the notwithstanding clause and they're never going to use it, we don't support that. We think it's irresponsible to say you would never, ever, ever use the notwithstanding clause. That's wrong. That's irresponsible. And again, the case federally, everyone, I think, listening to this would agree that if someone is exploiting children, if someone is creating child pornography and they store it or they're disseminating it, then a 1 year minimum sentence probably is a really good thing. And that's where we say the premier is wrong on that. So to add that in this is wrong.
There is a lot to that federal court case.
Yes.
It was talking specifically about a potential. Another thing that happened today, the same MLA for Kirkfield Park, Logan Oxenham, called you, and I'm going to quote him, cowardly transphobic. What would you say to anyone who might think that about you?
Well, I would say, I mean, it's very hurtful. First of all, I'm not. I mean, I've known you for a very, very long time. I have lots of friends in the LGBTQS plus community. It's not me. It's not my nature. I don't think the member knows me. I think they're going off, rhetoric that they hear outside, that they think, or political games that's played in the House. There's lots of stuff that's hurled in the House back and forth that's not true. I mean, even today, the Premier stood up today, which I was absolutely disgusted and dumbfounded, but it's not getting any media pickup. He called me a bigot. He's called me a racist before. A visible minority, the first colored leader of a Conservative party in the history of Canada, the Premier calls me a racist. And that's not picked up anywhere. My response was, I'm asking your minister a question about families and safety. It doesn't matter if she's female, male, non-binary. Doesn't matter if whatever race, ethnicity, religion they're from. I'm asking them a question based on their merit. And he calls me a racist. So today he called me a bigot. Didn't get picked up.
I didn't hear that part in question period today, but I did hear him describe how you are the first Muslim MLA in the legislature. In context, talking about not standing for the first openly transgender MLA, Logan Oxenham. Yesterday on the program, Logan Oxenham called for an apology. Do you think you need to apologize?
Well, I think the apology would be warranted on whether there was a confusion or misunderstanding of what it was. It may be a conversation or a dialogue on the statement to understand, was your intent really to play political games? Was it to create divisiveness? Was it to attack us and wedge us on certain issues? Or was it really truthfully about Transgender Day of Remembrance? Because if it was, member statements have, and you can look at even today's statements when it comes, or you can look at Holocaust statements or any other atrocities that have happened in the world. Those are those statements. All the members stand unanimously for those in a moment of silence. Didn't ask for a moment of silence. Didn't ask for recognition to stand and applause. Didn't ask to recognize the people in the crowd. But what it was very political in nature. So I would say to that, I would welcome that conversation. But that's not the case. And anyone that knows me is not the case. They are clearly playing political games. And you just, in your opening clip, the Premier said false things. He said I didn't clap. Well, and the clap was because I was like, okay, it is Gender Day of Remembrance, so I'll clap for that, but I'm not going to fully stand because I don't fully support what this statement's about. That's the truth of what happened.
What do you think the public needs to know about all of this that you don't think they might fully appreciate?
Well, I think listening to this interview. I think listening, talking to me, really looking at what happened with your own eyes, seeing the conduct in the chamber. You can see the conduct clearly in the chamber. There's constant hurls from the other side, misogynist, racist, homophobe, transphobe. When have I ever said anything? And I actually would ask anybody, when have I ever said anything along those lines? And I never have. I've said as a father who loves his son more than anything, I want to be there for my son. And yeah, I know you've seen me with my son. And if somehow that becomes a homophobic, rhetoric, transphobic call, and it's not. There's no malice or intent in my intentions at all. It is clearly coming from the NDP and the Premier to wedge us on these issues that don't need wedging. Imagine how much more powerful it would have been if it was truly a statement on Transgender Day of Remembrance. Imagine how powerful that would have been, Faith, for all of us to stand in recognition, because we would have. You play political games. Unfortunately, this is what happens.
I appreciate you making time today. Thank you.
Always appreciate you. Thank you for letting me on.
And take good care. Obby Khan is the leader of the official opposition. He is also the MLA for Fort White.